Hi, I don't usually play horror games, but since Halloween is around the corner, I decided to give it a try. I know this game is not fully out yet, it's about 3 episodes out of 5, but I thought I can play all the episodes that are already out before the release of the next episode, if I like the game. Also, I don't know what happened, but when I started this game for the first time, I got all achievements possible. So I saw some spoilers a little bit, but it's okay. Let's start the game. The wind clawed at my window all night long. Oh, do I need to press? It wandered the fields and howled like a hungry beast. An endless song weaved from all sorts of voices, shrill, gentle, sneery, twined in the air. They were shouting and laughing and arguing about something. Someone was running through the snow while casting long shadows that would occasionally creep close to my bed. Our house had a mind of its own, the creaky old mind of a building that had seen a lot in its days and was seemingly trying to share its wisdom with the inhabitants. The lonely house faced the forest, and the dark green thicket gazed back with its hollow eyes, rustling, wheezing, swaying back and forth. One could come out and stand at the edge of the forest to reassure themselves. There was nobody behind the crooked trees. Fuzzy silhouettes swaying in the wind couldn't possibly do any harm. It's just a play of light and shadow. Just a play. I knew it was just my imagination. I was already 12 after all. Still. Episode 1: The Owl Will Arrive.
Убери книгу немедленно.
Hey, put away your book. It's a very pretty art, by the way.
Сколько раз говорила, не читай за столом.
How many times have I told you not to read at the table? It's bad for your health. Look at how slouched you are. Oh, I didn't know that things are interactive. Can I press something else? I guess I will just hide the book. I didn't protest and put the book about Conan the Barbarian aside. I was stuck on a line I couldn't understand after reading it 3 times anyway. I can relate. Oля had already finished her breakfast and was munching on some cookies. She was so enthusiastic. She almost looked like your typical girl from commercials.
Пока не съешь, из-за стола не встанешь.
You are not going anywhere until you finish all of it. I, on the other hand, was still trying to drill a hole in the plate with my eyes, as if it would make the porridge disappear. Hazy anxiousness welled up inside, all because of the previous sleepless night, the black forest around our house and the gloomy wind. The longer I waited, the colder the lumpy white substance became. It looked like a jellyfish from the Cousteau Odyssey. I love that show. I wonder how horrifying the bottom of the ocean is, or how cold the Black Forest is at night. The spoon fell out of my hand. Mom showered me with a cold glare from her green eyes.
Что я говорила?
What did I just say?
Я достану.
I'll get it. I had 10 seconds to catch my breath before battling the nasty porridge once again. I felt around for the spoon. What is this carved on the other side of the table? Karina. Huh, that's my mom's name. I guess she carved it out with something pointy when she was little. She sure was a rascal, damaging the furniture like that. She would scold me for a week if I did something similar, though. Should I remind her about it? No, she's been in a bit of bad mood lately. I imagined her being my age, sitting under this table. I wonder, was Mom afraid of the dark back then? Or the sounds coming from the attic? Or the thick forest? I imagine my grandma coming into my little mom's room, sitting at the edge of her bed, where Oля sleeps nowadays, and saying this in her soft, smooth voice. Taiga is a special place, little girl. It's watching you closely, sniffing you out, trying to discern what kind of beast you are. If you are a good sort, it won't abandon you in times of trouble. But if you are a bad apple, it'll grab you by the side and drag you under the ground. And that would be it. Grandma was caring. She never fought with anybody, never yelled, never swore. Those were the times without the maddening screams until late at night, without smashed dishes and mutual accusations. Our parents used to love each other back then. I remember listening in on one of their conversations by chance. They were talking about Grandma getting prepared for her funeral. She had already bought a casket, and she called it her cute funeral box. It waited for its time in the closet, patiently. It was black, upholstered with meat, colored material on the inside. I saw it when my grandma was getting buried. The house didn't change since the time she was alive. Only all of the photos were gone. Glass-covered pictures with gray faces of my ancestors. They all had a dead but watchful look in their eyes. I crawled out from under the table. Ola was done with her cookies and was looking at my share like a sly woodland critter. I turned my gaze toward the frosted window. There were a lot of dark pines outside, but they didn't grab my attention. The pattern of frost formed the picture on the glass.
Оля, гляди, лиса.
Ola, look, it's a fox.
Где?
Where? It looked almost like those optical illusion thingies they put on the back of student notebooks. A mixture of lines at first glance, but if you blur your vision a little bit and look under a certain angle,
Да не на улице, на стекле.
not outside, on the window.
Смотри, вот нос. вот.
Look, here's the nose, and here's...
Ну-ка, доедай.
Hey, eat up.
Да, да,
Yes,
сейчас.
yes, just a moment.
Я ничего не вижу.
I don't see anything.
Живо.
Hurry up,
Совсем немного
there is not
осталось.
much left. Ah, there it is, but it still doesn't look like one.
А я говорю,
And I'm
похоже.
telling you it does. Nuh-uh,
Похоже.
it does.
Прекрати.
Stop it,
Ну что
these
за день?
kids, I swear. Now I couldn't see the fox either. It disappeared. Went away. Only the frosty patterns, similar to stretched out nettle leaves, kept creeping up the glass. My dad entered the kitchen with long, measured steps. I want to have a beard like his when I grow up. Mom would always ask jokingly, "Come on, shave it off, it stinks." This was so long ago. Nowadays, rumbling doors and witty comebacks were an everyday occurrence. Ola always covers her ears whenever she hears something like, "What's the point in all this?" through the wall. "It's all for your sake," Dad would reply, "for the sake of our family." I always caught every sound in fear of hearing the most dreaded, the dreadliest word that started with a D. D-I-V-O. I don't even want to finish it. It was scary to imagine that me and my little sister could be torn apart and taken into two different families. Anyway, your fox is nothing. I have an owl on my window. You and your owl talk again. You said you believed me just yesterday. Has anybody seen my car keys? I remember leaving them on the windowsill.
Вроде.
Right.
Вроде оставил.
Maybe you did, maybe not.
Вроде взрослый мужчина.
You're a grown man, a father of two, and still...
Перестань, пожалуйста.
Karina, please stop.
Дай мне спокойно.
Just let me get ready in peace.
В корзине твоей.
Your keys are in the basket, near the phone.
Огромное тебе
Well, thank you
человеческое
very
спасибо.
much.
Антон, ешь быстрее, а то как
Anton, stop
мученик
making a martyr out of yourself and finish eating already. But the owl...
сидишь. Не было там никакой
There was
совы.
no owl. But there was one. It had giant glowing eyes. Ola sprang up from the chair and placed her hands on her little face, imitating a pair of eyes with her fingers, the size of an apple peach. The size of an apple each.
В прошлом году бабай в шкафу. Сейчас сова.
Last year you had Babai in your closet, and now this owl? Glossary. Okay, so I can check what that is. Babai, in Slavic folklore, a nocturnal spirit used by parents to threaten their ill-behaving children. Alright. But I saw it! Ola shifted her gaze back and forth from Dad to Mom to me, but couldn't find any support.
А ты не думала подружиться?
Have you thought about befriending it?
Вымышленный.
You know, like feeding it with imaginary mice?
Не подначивай.
Don't bully our girl.
Просто мала еще.
She's just afraid to sleep alone because she's still little. Ola pouted her lips in rebellion and rushed into the hallway. The staircase that led to the second floor creaked. Mom gave Dad a strict look. Oh, that look in her eyes. It's so uncomfortable to be pinned under it. Dad just snorted in reply and left, ringing with the keys he just found. A minute had passed, and the theme song from The Little Mermaid echoed through the house. It was stored on incredibly worn-out cassette tape, which Dad already had to glue together once. It's so easy to fix objects by gluing them back together, for example. But how do you fix a relationship? Mom moved to the living room and I was left alone, anxiously stealing glances at the window. Ola had trouble sleeping ever since we moved to this house. She would toss and turn or curl up into a ball under her blanket. Sometimes she would jump up in the middle of the night and turn on the VCR. Cartoons helped to take her mind off all the troubles we had with the move and our parents. And then Ola said she saw that giant flying monster outside her window. She became obsessed with it. Our parents did everything in their power. They tried every little trick to get rid of those ridiculous fears. Ola refused to sleep alone and didn't believe that the owl was just one of her nightmares. After last night, I wasn't sure what to make of my sister's words, what to think of it myself. Can nightmares be infectious? That night, I couldn't get a wink of sleep and ended up thinking of what to expect from my new school. There were a couple of days left before the beginning of a new term. My imagination drew long, twisting hallways that led to a classroom full of kids. But all the students behind their desks were simply dark figures cut out using a template. Circular holes gaped in the middle of their faces, and pairs of eyes blinked inside those holes. It was as if some completely different creatures were looking at me from behind the flat black silhouettes. Their cruel glares, filled with icy sneers, made me shiver from head to toe. Will I survive here? Won't they gang up on me and beat me down, stomp on me with their bloodied shoes? The damn school can burn for all I care. I just wished for anything to happen to it. Doesn't really matter what. I didn't want to go there that badly. I didn't want to see people who are just itching to smack me on the head, trip me up, think of a new offensive name for me, worse than the previous ones. I felt like the glasses I wore made me an outsider or some sort of monster. My gaze slid across the drawings hanging on the walls. I couldn't consider myself a great artist, but Ola begged me to hang them. Drawing was the only thing that made me happy as of late. The small circle of friends I had also enjoyed my paintings, and they promised to call me from time to time. Sometimes I imagine Mom picking up the phone and saying in a cold voice, "You've got the wrong number." Or, "Anton is not around." Anton is not around. I imagine my future classmates lying in their beds, just like me, listening to the howls of invisible werewolves outside their windows. Maybe my new classmates will like me after all. But who would ever like a boy with thick glasses? I mean, my dad used to wear glasses when he was little, and now he's married to the most beautiful woman on the planet, my mom. The house creaked, pressed by the wind. The condo we used to live in, a 9-floor concrete building, buzzed with the neighbor's drill, mumbled with a TV set from behind the wall, cried like a baby from the big family next door. Our current house, though, I can't really call it new, was completely different. It was silent and easygoing during the day. Its shadows lay dormant in the corners, on the closest cobwebs and under the stairs. But they all woke up during the night. Something was watching me from every corner, almost as if the old photos of my deceased family, with their ashen eyes, were hanging on the walls in place of my drawings. The floor was squeaking, rusty drains were moaning. The attic was occupied by noisy drafts. One could think the house was performing some sort of demonic melody. And then I realized I was, in fact, hearing music. It was already playing for a good while. Somewhere at the edge of my perception, I could hear a flute. It was mixed in with the sound of the wind, of the creaking old house, and my thoughts too. I stood up and rushed to the window. I wanted to reassure myself that this music was nothing more than a product of my imagination. It's not like someone is playing it there amidst the cold, snowy night, right? Someone was dancing in the field. It's funny, a bit. Black silhouettes I could barely make out, with the dark forest as their backdrop. They jumped around, basked in moonlight, bumped into piles of snow, rolled around and crawled on all fours. Stories about wolves playing under the moon came to mind, but these were clearly not wolves. They stood upright at times, circled around holding hands and whipping up snow, disappearing into the shadows for a brief moment and then coming back. Something bizarre was going on. Shadows dancing in the starless abyss made my imagination go wild, making me anxious at the same time. Suddenly, the music had stopped. The dancing shadows froze in place and, I could swear, pierced me with their eyes. One of the silhouettes immediately parted from the bizarre shadow carnival and sprinted across the field with giant leaps. It glided on squeaky snow without leaving any prints until it was devoured by the pitch-black shadow of my house, which became even darker and thicker. My heart was jumping around like the bird inside the cage. I shut the curtains with a swift motion and stepped back toward the bed. They saw me. A freezing torrent of fear washed over me. I stood in the middle of a perfectly dark room and listened to some unwanted guest move and scrape around, looking for an entrance. The sound moved to the right, then circled around the house. Now my guest should be at the front door. I jumped into the bed and covered myself with a blanket as if it could protect me. The shackles of fear locked my muscles. I remembered the funeral, my grandma lying there, hands crossed on her chest, her facial features sharp like that of a tin doll. Ants running up and down the legs of chairs that held my grandma's casket. I imagined those little creatures climbing up her head and pulling up her eyelids with their tiny legs. Then her wrinkly eyeballs would once again move inside their sockets and she'd be able to see her grandchildren. I was chanting the spell she taught me throughout the whole procedure. And now, lying under the blanket and listening to squeaks and howls, I was repeating the same words. On the island of Buyan, underneath the blemished sun, in the sea of color blue, stands a cabin made of wood. There lay lard and ashen hair, for the spawn from devil's lair, to feast and always leave alone, God's faithful servant named Anton. Evil leave this house must. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Bizarre sounds had disappeared. I cautiously peeked out from under the blanket and saw curtains waving around like a hanged man. And then the night doused me with a new portion of boiling terror. The sound scratched at my eardrums. In reality, something or someone were scratching at the front door, hurriedly clawing at wood, demanding to be let in. The door was shut. Dad had become very cautious recently, so he installed a sturdy lock. I remember him staring at the forest intently, as if he was looking for someone. Ashes to ashes. Dust to dust. I hugged my knees, placing my chin between them, and drilled the door with my eyes. It was so flimsy and weak before the might of darkness. And then the door knob twitched slightly. Then it turned halfway, once, twice, as if the person who tried to enter had no hands. The door knob tilted once more, and then started clicking violently. My jaw cramped from fear. My wet fingers clutched the blanket. The door creaked and opened. The wind taunted me, moaning inside the tin drains. Now, you'll see. The door was wide open. The darkness writhed inside the carnivorous mouth of a doorway. It was as if the night itself was calling out to me, flapping its black wings and squeaking with rusty hinges. I was trembling and snared by the web of darkness that hung in the corners of my room, waiting for the one who weaved it to come out of the gaping black hole. To me, my abdomen tightened and my chest rose up, ready to exhale a desperate scream. But before I was able to do anything, the darkness asked me, "Tosha, you asleep?" My sister's pale face protruded from the thick shadows. I almost screamed from relief.
Оля,
Ola, I'm not sleeping. Did something happen? Ola frowned and stuck out her lower lip, a clear sign that she was about to cry. It's there again, staring at me. Shoo her away, Tosha, please. I'm so scared. The fear that was tormenting me just a minute ago crawled away and hid somewhere in my stomach. I needed to calm Ola down. Oh, such a nice brother.
это был сон, глупый.
It was just a dream, silly. Don't be scared. Dreams don't bite. No one's going to harm you. Ola sobbed. She was trying her best to believe me. But was I sure myself?
У меня есть идея.
I have an idea.
Пойдем
Let's go to your room and watch the video, Sleeping Beauty, for example.
Тебе же нравится?
You like that cartoon, don't you?
Почему спящий?
Why does the Sleeping Beauty have a prince and I have this scary bird? That question took me by surprise.
Ладно.
Alright, let's watch Cinderella. My thoughts became tangled, fuzzy. What was that? What studied me with its eyes while dancing feverishly under the moon? The darkness was clinging to the window, and it couldn't be fooled by Grandma's old chants. It couldn't be satisfied with a feast of lard and long ashen hair. Tosha, you coming?
Да, да,
Yes, yes,
сейчас.
just a moment. I did not expect this. That's why I didn't want to laugh at Ola and her owl in the morning. Who could be visiting us here, in the middle of nowhere? We don't know anyone around here. So persistent. I felt extremely unsettled just from a silly thought that our morning guests could have come from the woods. I could barely hear voices coming from the front door. My mind was urging me to hide. In the closet, under the table, behind the curtains where Ola always hides. Tosha, come here. I felt like kettlebells were tied to my feet, but still dragged them toward the hallway. A couple of policemen towered over me in the doorway. They smelled like frost and worry. My mom always winced and grumbled the moment she saw patrol cars, worse than bandits. At the moment, though, she looked somewhat confused.
Здравствуйте.
Hello? The senior officer, who wore a grim expression, nodded.
Тут мальчик вчера.
A boy had gone missing yesterday. His name's Vova.
Глянь, пожалуйста.
Look at this, please. Have you seen him? The policeman held out a photograph to me. There was a ginger boy around the age of elementary school, pictured with a wall carpet as the backdrop. He had a striped cat in his hands and wore a wide smile.
Нет.
No, I haven't.
Точно?
Are you sure?
Посмотри
Look closely.
Где мне его видеть?
Where would I see
Я тут
him?
никого
I
не
don't know
знаю.
anyone
Я
around
из
here.
дома-то
I
почти
barely
не
leave the
выхожу.
house.
А может, видел в окно?
Well, maybe you've seen him from the window?
Да, у тебя ведь окна, да?
That's right. Your windows look straight at the forest, don't they? The window.
Нет, не видел.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Ясно.
I see. He sounded tired, but his eyes, his stare, long and heavy, was full of suspicion. I squirmed unwittingly under the weight of guilt which his giant shadow cast over me. The policeman finally tore his eyes from me and glanced over the hallway, the stairway, and the cracks in the ceiling, which I haven't noticed before for some reason.
Вы, кстати, как на новом месте?
How do you like your new place, by the way? Getting used to it?
Понемногу. Только
Bit
вот
by
дочка
bit,
маленькая
it's just
была
our
в
little daughter misses the city a lot.
Скучает, значит.
Misses the
Из
city, huh?
местных вас никто не беспокоит?
Have the locals been treating you well?
Всё хорошо.
Yes, everything is all right, thank you. The policeman pierced through me one more time with his brown eyes. My head started spinning.
Может, вам помочь как-то?
Can I help you somehow? I asked it in a shaky voice to look like a polite boy and to end this unpleasant conversation sooner.
Я вот стою и думаю,
Now that I think about it,
ты малец
you
на
look
племеша
just
моего
like
брата.
one of my nephews, little fella.
Шустрый парнишка
He's a
твоих
witty
лет,
boy around your
с
age,
такими же
wears the
окулярами,
same type
всё
of
книжками
goggles, haha.
зачитывается, детектив.
Always engrossed in reading those mystery novels.
Когда летом погостить приезжал,
Told me he wants
Говорит,
to
что в
enroll
школу
in
милиции
police school when
мечтает
his family visited this summer.
как я,
Wanted to
Хотел
help
людям
other
помогать.
people just like me,
Смекаешь?
see? I felt uncomfortable, as if a distant relative and not a police officer stood before me.
Ох,
You know
ребятушки,
what?
сидите-ка вы лучше
Little
дома.
boys like you should stay at home, steer away from trouble. The
Жизнь
times have
сейчас
changed
совсем
so
другая
much.
пошла.
Mom interjected in a cold voice.
Мне ли не знать?
You don't say.
Ну да ладно.
Ah, well then.
Ты, Антон, в каком классе?
What grade are you in, Anton?
В шестом?
Sixth.
Друзей-то на новом
Have
месте
you
ещё
made
не
any
завел?
friends here so far?
Пока нет.
Not yet.
Я только
I'll be
после
going to
каникул
school
в
for the first time after the break.
Тогда вот вам на
Ah,
всякий
then
случай
I'll
мой
leave
номер.
you my number,
Звоните.
just in case. Call me if you have any new info. The policemen were gone along with their shadows, the smell of cheap cologne, and the photo of a smiling boy. His face still stood before my eyes. I wondered what it was like for him being all alone there. For some reason, I thought of the forest swaying in the wind. What did his poor parents feel? And what would my parents do if I'd gone missing? Would they cry and thrash around hysterically? Or would they accuse each other, like they always do, and forget about me eventually?
Мам,
Mom,
Вова, это
this
в нашем
Vova,
лесу
did he
заблудился?
go missing in our forest?
Выходит, что
Seems
так,
like it.
бедный
Poor
ребёнок.
child. I looked out the window at the road. The police UAZ drove off towards the village. UAZ, a Soviet and Russian off-road freight passenger car brand, which was produced on the Ulyanovsk car factory. The officer's nephew came to mind when I was splitting off old paint from the windowsill. I remembered all the teenage mystery novels from the Black Kitty series I've read this summer. Black Kitty, a series of contemporary Russian original or translated teen mystery books. Your average boys and girls investigated all sorts of mysteries there. They looked for clues, spied on suspicious people. and after a set of amazing adventures, bam, solved any complicated case. They became local celebrities and must have made their parents very proud. I noticed a trail of policemen's footprints that led to the forest, and then it clicked in my head. Why don't I start an investigation of my own? Oh no. Maybe I'll find that lost boy, and I'll get a reward. Ola will be so happy. And not only Ola, Mom and Dad too. Maybe they'll even forget about their quarrels for a while. Maybe I'll even save us from the D word. I fantasized about buying Ola a Tamagotchi and getting a cassette player and a bunch of tapes for myself. And a whole box of Kinder Surprise. When was the last time our parents bought us any toys? Last autumn, I think. My dad had lost his job at the time. There is that annoying song about it. Accountant, a song by an all-female Soviet pop band by the name of Combination, that became widely popular in the early 90s. I had little to no idea what was the accountant's job like. They count money, I think. Neighbors used to envy us. But nowadays Mom and Dad barely had money to afford sweets, and Dad would always divide a single chocolate bar between me and Ola. Sometimes I gave her my share too. He's so nice. No matter how much I wanted to eat sweets, she was still just a pipsqueak. I couldn't wait to go out, looking for clues.
Пойду погуляю.
I'm going outside.
Ага.
Yeah, right.
Чтобы потом
You want the
милиционеры
police to
звонить,
go
когда
around
тебя
with
домой
your
привели.
photograph next?
Лес вон какой
The
густой.
forest is so thick.
А если мальчика зверь
What if the boy got snatched up by wild animals or something even worse? Even worse, echoed through the hallway.
Да я рядом буду.
I won't go
Лесом
far.
пойду.
I'll stay away from the forest.
Что я тебе сказала?
Did you
Мне
hear
дважды
what I
повторять.
said? Or should I repeat myself?
Лучше портфель собери или соли поиграй.
Better go pack your school bag or play with Ola. The sound of splashing water came from the kitchen. It meant that the argument was over and Mom had the last word. I guess I will walk around for a bit before going out, if I can. The dark, stuffy closet. Mom says it smells like mice, but how would she know their smell? She hates when I stick my nose in there. She's afraid I'll cut myself on the freshly sharpened axe. And Ola can't even be lured close to it. She thinks Baba is living there. I tried to help her fight her fears once. I opened the door and turned on a dim lamp, so she would see there was nothing but cobwebs, dead stools and scratched walls. She still didn't believe me. And I liked to hide in the closet and listen to Ola count outside. 1, 2, 3. Better hide from me. And then drag her feet on the creaking floorboards, hoping that she wouldn't need to look for me in the cramped monster's den. Lie to Mom? I will open the fridge. Grandma kept ice cream for me and Ola there, but now I could only see meat bits for soup and clumped together pelmeni. I grew to hate them already. Pelmeni, a Russian variety of dumplings made by boiling thin unleavened dough filled with mincemeat. One may even call it Russian fast food. What's that? Oh. The side of an old ocean freezer was checkered with my childish drawings, Mom's recipes, and all kinds of stickers from bubblegum with dinosaurs that Oля liked so much. Among that still life picture hung a piece of ruled paper with the phone number of the police officer who visited us. First Lieutenant Tikhonov, I read inside my mind, looking at the officer's sprawling handwriting. A scrap of paper was held by 2 pieces of a broken magnet from some old Soviet toy, and those pieces just barely covered up the numbers as if to taunt me. I leaned toward it to unveil the mystery and take the piece to a safer place where it would wait for its time, when I would finally find Vova and be the first to call the police with the happy news.
Антон,
Anton! Mom's reproachful eyes stared at me.
зачем тебе?
What do you need it for? Hands off, you lose it. Angering my mom was the last thing I wanted, so I lowered my hand. Should we lie to her? This cross had seen so many people come and go in this house. It was black, as if it absorbed all human sin from the long years it was hanging under the ceiling. After Grandma died, Mom was going to take it off and hang a horseshoe in its place as a lucky charm, but she cut herself with the cross sharp corner and almost fell from the stepladder. Dad called it a sign from above and ordered the cross to be left alone in its rightful place. Mom's peg top, a family relic. My mom played with it when she was little, then she gifted it to me. Oля was next in the succession line. The toy belonged to her now. She started at the dancing spindle as if it could show her something, a fairy tale or maybe even our future. Now even my little sister was a bit too old for the old squeaky peg top. It was difficult to lie to Mom, but there was no other way for me to run away from home. Mom, something's wrong with the TV. The picture is dim and there are stripes all over the screen. Mom's face became visibly distorted. Ah, you're killing me here. So have you had enough of shooting those stupid ducks now? Told you the kinescope will go dim because of your console. Where will we find a TV technician in this hole, huh? Maybe it's just the setting. Please, go see for yourself. Strange, it worked fine in the morning. Maybe the snowflake caused it. Mom rubbed her hands clean on her apron and went to Ola's room. I guess now we can escape. I opened the front gate and went into the field. Carefully, so Mom wouldn't see me from the window. When I crossed half of the distance toward the forest, the snow piles became as high as my knees. I remembered my nightly fears. I saw those silhouettes around here. They were jumping around, holding hands. That hypnotizing music started playing in my head all on its own. In the light of day, those distant figures felt like a simple dream. The sun turned my nightmares to ash, but the aftertaste was still there, distant ringing in my ears, distorted shadows crawling on the snow alongside me. And the barely audible whisper in my head, blurry and almost kind. Everything was silent. So silent I felt like the world was totally empty. No ground, no sky, no parents, no Ola. The time reached its limit, a one-way trip that ended at the forest's piney stockade. Sometimes silence was much scarier than any scream. Our parents would scream at each other while arguing, and both me and Ola turned to stone listening to them. But then always came the ringing silence. Our apartment became numb a couple of days before we departed. It was hard to remember the last time Mom and Dad joked around, laughing, or spent time together, almost like all of it was in a previous life. When they kissed with Ola present, she always frowned and snorted in a funny way. But one day it all changed. Something important had left our home, and something scary filled the remaining void. It was as if a fire broke out, and our parents were hurriedly packing our belongings, trying to save themselves and us. From who, though? From the people with dead, cold eyes, who sometimes visited us in our previous home? The eyes that only saw balls of worms on the black ground in everything. And somewhere far away a siren was going off, trying to warn us of the coming menace. I shuddered, chasing away my delusions, and looked around. There were only me, this white field, and the wind that was whipping up icy dust and belts of powdered snow. I squinted from the sun and turned my eyes to the sunless forest. It looked especially dark in contrast with the blinding whiteness. Knobi? I don't know how to pronounce this word. Knobi tree roots slithered under the snow like fat snakes. Rotten leaves and coniferous needles froze into the ice. Dry, prickly branches intertwined, bringing up uncomfortable thoughts about fences. Were they protecting the forest? Or were they keeping something from breaking out? Some object was hanging from one of the pointy branches. I tried to get closer, drowning in snow, and when I almost got to the edge of the forest, I saw a knitted mitten. It looked like a wounded bird among the hungering semi-dark. Should I take it to the police? Their senior officer looked gloomy, but he still reminded me of Captain Casanova from my favorite TV show called The Streets of Broken Lights. Streets of Broken Lights, a Russian mystery TV series telling a story of the daily life of Russian police officers, is the longest-running series in the history of Russian TV at the moment. He was also always anxious, with a tired look in his eyes, but still brave and strong. Will this mitten help them find the lost boy? Vova! I heard a distant shout, looked like it came from the river. Vova! As if the trees were calling out to someone. Vova! Resounded closer to me. Someone was standing there, behind the trees. Hiding. Vova! I knew someone was looking for the lost boy, but still, something was unsettling about that figure. Its stillness, how it was bent unnaturally toward the ground. Its blackness. There is no one there, just branches and roots. It's all just my imagination. A nearby bird flapped its wings loudly. A shadow split from the tree and disappeared from my sight. I looked away for just a moment, but when I turned my gaze back to the same place, it was gone. So it was my imagination after all. Silence reigned for a painfully long time. Oh, I thought there would be another jump scare. My muscles were tightly sprung. My heart was beating somewhere in my throat. Any noise, any little movement, any small whisper from the thicket and I'd sprint. But nothing of the sort happened. I looked at the mitten once more. We can take it. I mean, if the crime happened, we shouldn't probably touch anything, but maybe it can be a clue for the policeman that the boy is actually in the forest and they will go and search. I don't know. We can try and take it. I decided to take the lonely mitten from the branch. Vova! A shout rumbled across the field and dissolved into the distance. No echo, no hope for a reply. I stepped toward the bristly trees and tried to claim my find. It didn't budge. I pulled harder, the branch cracked and the mitten tore off, landing in my hand with a squishy sound. All too heavy, wet. I squeezed it without thinking and something dark spilled from it, forming a tiny stream between the mitten and the snow. Steam rose from the snow pile. Blood. I froze in place, studying my palms in disgust. Red. The sound of cracking branches invaded the silence. I didn't have to think twice before running away. Someone was chasing me from the darkness, breaking pine branches, closing the distance with giant leaps. Snow was slowing me down. Crazy thoughts flew through my mind. I'll get caught. They'll get me. I'll get dragged into the thicket. I'll be gone forever. But there was one more voice, probably one of reason. It gave me strength, spurred me on. You can do it, don't stop. I heard an animal roar behind me. It was so loud my ears went numb. It felt like the sound had come from a pack of hungry beasts rather than a single one. Their nostrils sucked in freezing air. They sensed my fear. Two giant wings flapped above my head. An enormous shadow flew over the clearing, a hoot, a wheeze. The roars were coming from all directions now. From the dried up raspberry bush, from twisted pines, from under the windfall. Hurry, run, don't look back. It felt like I was inside a nightmare. The snowy clearing became vicious like quicksand. He's running for so long, it felt like their house is very close, but it's just a bit funny. I understand it's because we need to know everything, but just he's running and running. I was stuck in place. I pulled my leg from the mushy trap just to be caught in a new one, even deeper than before. I continued to drown, sinking deeper and deeper with every desperate push. Was snow ever this sticky? I screamed in horror after realizing this wasn't snow. Someone or something in the snow pile was clutching my pants. I gathered all my strength and rushed forward. The pressure on my leg was gone. My boots slipped out of the hole and my soles were on a hard surface again. I reached the clear path with one jump and from there ran to my house. Its gloomy facade didn't look threatening now. That house was my line of defense from the shadows that flapped their wings and the creatures that were hidden under the snow. I tripped over the doorstep and smashed into the door. In all my hurry, I still managed to notice the claw marks. as if a dog was striking the wood with its paws, demanding to be let in so it could escape the cold. I hadn't noticed these marks when I was leaving. The heartbeat in my ears was much louder than my surroundings. I couldn't hear whether someone was following me or not. What if they were already in our front yard and Mom had locked the door? Drowning in fear, I pulled on the door knob and it obediently gave way. I rolled into the hallway and shut the door behind me. Porch planks creaked as my pursuers ascended the stairs. My fingers slipped off the lock and I couldn't click it into place. I gritted my teeth and pulled hard on the iron knob, whipping it between the boards. I stared blankly at the door. Someone was standing on the other side of the pitiful, flimsy barrier that was probably less useful than blankets. Wheezing breath reached into the house and crashed at me in waves. It smelled of pine and sweat. Mom peeked out of the kitchen and chastised me with the same frigid voice she always used when talking to Dad. What exactly didn't you understand when I told you to never slam the door?
Я
I
случайно.
didn't mean to. I snuck a glance at the door. The smell was gone, and the breath was too. If there was someone in the first place, of course. Here, mere 5 meters away from Mom, my fear was slowly weakening, melting like snow in spring, and with it, the last bit of strength I had left my body too. My legs gave way. I propped myself up against the wall so I wouldn't fall over. Mom's expression had changed immediately. The cold mask of strictness and detachment was gone. Mom looked the same as before all those quarrels. She finally saw my condition, my wet pants plastered with snow.
Ты где был?
Where have you been? What did I tell you, huh?
Дома сидел.
I told you to stay home.
Я и для тебя поступила.
Am I nothing to you too? I got afraid she would cry. I reached out to her like when I was very little and wanted her to cuddle me. But Mom regained her composure fast and put on her usual face. Her eyes shined like steel. Her voice rang out.
У отца сигареты.
Your dad can't find his cigarettes.
Признавайся.
Be
ты
honest,
стащил.
did you snatch
Курить
them?
бегаешь.
Were you smoking in secret?
Там
I...
за
There
мной
was
кто-то
someone
гнался.
chasing me.
Я думал,
I
меня
thought... I stuttered as soon as I started explaining myself. Tears welled up in my eyes. Mom leaned toward me and sniffed my clothes like a beast, searching for the smell of tobacco. Then she squinted her eyes in suspicion and looked into the front yard. Her expression changed in an instant and she covered her mouth with her hand.
Гляди, вон же они.
Look over there at the fence! My heart started thumping as if I became prey once again and my pursuers were following me in the field. I could swear that I've heard something scratch at the door, just like in my nightmare. Mom beckoned me with her finger and I gathered all my remaining bravery to look into the kitchen window facing my fear. I could barely discern some hairy silhouettes swimming in snow through the icy winter patterns on the glass. Dogs. Just a small pack of strays with no name and owner, barely reminded me of the hungry monsters that live on the edge of the forest.
Машечка.
Oh boy, were you scared of them? I think they'd rather be scared of you, Anton.
Они гнались
They were
за мной,
chasing me like a bunny.
словно за зайцем. А вдруг они бешеные?
And what if they are rabid? The smile had slowly disappeared from Mom's face. Now she looked at the dogs as if it was her first time seeing them.
Что если они нападут
What if
на
they
меня?
attack Oля?
Мам,
Mom,
Вот бы
I
ты
wish your dad
всё-таки
could
сделала.
just shoot them all. That's cruel.
мама,
Mom, look, they're alive.
А что?
Huh? What?
Ты уж определись? Они тебе друзья или враги?
Are they your friend or foe after all? Make up your mind.
Не маленький ведь уже.
You're not a little kid anymore. Mom sighed in annoyance, and I felt so bitter that I bit my lower lip and fixed my gaze on the cobweb-ridden corner just to keep myself from crying. Welp, some detective I am. In reality, I wasn't risking my life among monsters, but rather my pants among a pack of stupid strays. And what for? What use do I have for this? Mitten. Of course. A dark and sticky mitten that belonged to the lost boy made a squishy sound in my hand. Seemed like I was clutching it the whole time. How didn't she notice blood on his hands? That's my trump card as a detective. I hurried to present this clue to my mom.
Мам, смотри, это
Mom,
вдруг
look,
товарищ.
this is Vova's mitten.
Ну, того, про
That
которого
boy
милиция
the
спрашивает.
police were asking about in the morning.
Она вся в
It's
крови.
drenched in blood. I found it hanging on a
Там,
tree.
могу показать.
I can show where.
Давай в милицию
Let's
сходим,
call the
позвони.
police right
Это
away,
участковый, прости.
like the officer had told us to. Mom,
бензин.
look!
Фу.
Ew! A shadow of doubt slowly crept onto Mom's contorted face, as if she was trying to remember something distant, like someone tries to remember their dream, but the images slip away.
А ну-ка, прекрати сейчас.
Stop it this moment.
Оля тебя услышала.
Oля will go insane if she hears you.
Она и так не
She already has trouble sleeping and whines all the time.
Еще и ты со своими
And you
шуточками.
joke around like this. Joke around? Oh? At that moment I realized the mitten was actually wet from snow. There was no blood whatsoever. I wanted to sink through the floor from embarrassment.
Иди сюда, по
Come
метро.
here, my boy, who cried Wolf.
Да не стой, столбом.
Oh, don't just stand there.
Таблетки
Come
надо.
take your pills. A golden colored pill reminiscent of a dead wasp fell into my palm.
Я уже пил сегодня.
I already
На
took
завтрак.
one during breakfast.
Попререкайся мне
Don't
ещё.
talk over me.
Сказала
I
Бог
told you to
тебе,
stay
нет?
home, and you,
Был бы отец выпорол.
Dad would have given you a good whipping for that.
Сейчас же выпей, а то
Come
ночью
on,
не
take
уснешь.
it, or you won't be able to sleep at night, and you have school tomorrow. What are they giving him? So he's seeing things? So I had to swallow the bitter medication, drinking it down with similarly awful water that gave off a taste of chlorine. Maybe it wasn't Wova's mitten. Maybe it wasn't a mitten at all. Just like the forest monsters. And Olya's owl. Am I going mad? What's happening to me? Either the pill had an immediate effect or my overexerted brain didn't let fear inside anymore. Serenity washed over me, bringing yawny indifference along with it.
Антон,
Anton, you done? See, you can do it when you try.
раздевайся. Уснул,
Take
что
off
ли?
your coat. Are you asleep?
Нет,
No, Mom, I was just thinking.
Интересно, о чём
What
же?
about, I wonder?
так.
It's just something silly. Mom scrutinized me with suspicious eyes, as if she wasn't sure she was looking at her own son and not some doppelganger that came from the forest.
Точно всё
Is
нормально?
everything alright?
У тебя такое лицо.
You had the exact same expression when the policeman asked you about the window.
Все нормально.
I'm alright, Mom. She heaved a deep sigh.
Хорошо.
Fine. It seemed like the house had changed. The sofa's fabric had become discolored. Fingerprints appeared on the bathroom tiles. The light bulbs also felt different, dimmer and yellower. Even the saliva inside my mouth had a different taste. A melody from Aladdin could be heard from the upper floor. Oля was done rewatching her favorite Little Mermaid episodes and switched to other tapes. I slowly changed into my home clothes, stopped before the sink and studied my reflection in the mirror, like I was trying to solve one of those spot the difference puzzles. Then I went upstairs.
Lúc này vừa ra bàn
Jafar's and Lagos' voices died down. I walked past Olya's bedroom and slipped into my own. One of the drawers was empty. I hid the mitten there. This simple action drained the last bit of strength from me. I sat on the bed. And only then I noticed there was someone behind the curtains. My tired hand dropped to the sheets. Whether it was due to medication I took or the stress I underwent, the room began to contort, as if the wind was blowing the walls out like a pair of sails. The corners of the room bent and undulated. The only stable thing in the whole room was the figure between the windowsill and the curtains. A flimsy piece of cloth was stuck to my hidden visitor. It reminded me of burial sheets.
Оля,
Oля? Who else would be standing there? I stood up and licked my dried lips.
Оля, очень
Yeah,
смешно.
Ola, it's so funny. The silhouette was unmoving. It was enveloped softly by the curtains, as if there was a thick layer of darkness there, not a human being. I reached toward the curtains. Badum, badum, beat my heart, controlled by medication. The wind sang in the field with a chorus of voices. For a second I wanted to return to the bed, just lie down and watch the person behind the curtain, knowing full well they were looking back at me. They are looking without blinking, waiting for me to fall asleep. Plastic rings rustled against the holder when I pulled open the curtains. Gotcha!
Да я сразу
I knew
понял,
it
что
was
это
you
ты.
from the beginning. Yeah, the silhouette looked like her, so I was expecting her. A blindingly bright halo lit up above Ola's head with the setting sun as the background. My sister was shining. When she was just a baby, Dad always used to say she was shining with happiness. I always retorted, "But Dad, she's not some flashlight." But I brought her to the window one day and sunlight poured on her smiling face. I felt like I was holding a light woven child.
А я всё
I saw everything.
Да ну,
Oh, really?
что ты
What did you hide? She was just like my mom when she was little, before she put on her mask of tiredness and switched to her commanding tone of voice.
Ничего,
It's nothing, just... Ola ran up to the table, her eyes round, and asked, "You stole something and hid it there? Are you a thief?"
Что?
What? Don't be stupid.
Ничего я не
I didn't
брал.
steal anything. A clear image came to mind, that mitten hanging from a tree branch. What if I did steal it after all? From the forest, from the tilted figure, standing behind black trees. Ola could be selfish and stubborn when she wanted.
Покажи.
Then show me.
Поклянись, что никому
Swear
не
that you
скажешь.
won't tell anyone, then I'll show you. Ola wore a plotting smile.
Клянусь
I
памятью
swear on my
сердца.
mom's heart. An oath she heard in one of the movies about the pioneers we've watched. Pioneer movement, an umbrella term for communist children organizations existing around the world, somewhat reminiscent of the Scout movement.
Не говори так.
Don't say things like that. Ola nodded and made a gesture with her hand, locking her mouth with an imaginary key. She was filled with curiosity that was splashing in her giant eyes. I opened the drawer and Ola leaned in, holding her breath. It looked like there was not just a simple mitten, but some sort of exotic critter. Is this someone's mitten? She said that as if she couldn't understand what she saw.
Один
A certain boy lost it and got lost himself.
Теперь понимаешь, как опасно гулять в лесу?
Now you do understand how dangerous it is for kids to wander in the forest, right? He must be really cold out there. Will they find him?
Обязательно.
They will.
Участковый по
The
домам
police
всем
are
фотографии
going
показывает.
house to house, showing his photo to everybody. Oля traversed the room with care and pressed her tiny palms against the window. And why are they going to the houses and not the forest? Are they scared? The question caught me off guard.
Милиционеры
The
ничего
police
не
aren't scared of anything.
И в лес они
They've
пришли.
already scouted the forest. Yeah, right, flashed in my clouded mind. Did they really check every nook and cranny where darkness, cold, and whispers of icy branches dwell? If that's the case, how did they miss the mitten? Or did it appear later, for me? I changed the topic, as if trying to get Oля as far away as possible from the forest thicket. We may get a reward if I go and find this boy by myself.
Кучу всякого. как в
A lot
«Поле
of
чудес».
stuff like in the Wheel of Fortune. Field of Wonders, a Soviet and Russian TV game show, still running to this day, coming out every Friday, can be described as a partially adapted version of Wheel of Fortune.
Клёво же.
Sounds cool, right? Oля wasn't listening to me. She was piercing the forest with incredibly adult eyes, uncharacteristic for her.
А что если
What if the owl got him?
ерунда?
Nonsense.
Не может сова
An owl
поймать
won't
человека.
be able to lift a human.
Ну вот что.
But you know what? I was speaking my words with utmost care. I forced them out of my overexerted brain.
Ты в лес не суйся.
Stay away from the
Кажется,
forest.
какой-то,
I think it's...
как бы сказать,
How should I put it?
проклятый, что ли.
It's cursed or something.
Как в сказке.
Just like in a fairy tale?
Нет, скорее,
No,
кто-то
more
страшный
like in
носитель,
that
что родители
spooky
прячут.
tape our parents hide from us. Ola shivered and stole a glance at the window.
Я видела, как
I
ты
saw you
убегал.
running away.
За тобой кто-то
Someone
гнался.
was chasing you.
Нет, просто
No, it's
чтобы
just
мама-
I was hurrying back home so mom won't be worried. As I looked at my sister, my heart was tearing apart. She was so fragile, it was so easy to stifle her light. A gust of wind, and her small fire would be gone.
Хорошо,
You are lucky.
меня вот
Mom won't even let me go outside.
как принцесса.
I'm like a princess in the tower,
Никуда не могу
can't go anywhere.
Так,
I'll die from boredom here.
не придумал.
You are wrong.
От скуки
No
еще
one
никто
has
не
ever
умрет.
died of boredom.
У тебя же есть
And you
я и
have
Кузя.
me and your
А мы с
cartoons,
папой
and mom
снова
and
вместе.
dad will be good to each other soon. You know what I would wish for on my next birthday?
Чтобы родители
I'd wish for mom and dad to turn into children so we could go and play together like we used to.
Ага.
Yeah,
Если бы они
and if
стали
you'd
размером
make them
щенка, то
as
мы бы
small as
космический
bugs, we
корабль
could place them into a little box. Oля giggled and tugged at my sleeve. Tosha, let's go watch Aladdin. Fatigue won over my desire to be with my little sister. I was washed over by some sort of heinous apathy.
Вымотался я.
I'm too tired. I don't want to. Come on.
Мне скучно.
It's so boring alone and mom is always busy.
Можно
We can pick a cartoon you haven't seen before.
Да я все
I
наши
know
кассеты
all of
написала.
our tapes by heart at this point.
А вот и не
Not all
все.
of them.
Ты
You
меня
haven't
вроде
watched
не
Peter Pan.
видел. Помнишь, ты уснул?
Remember how you fell asleep in the middle of it?
Потом,
And so much happens after that. Let's go, let's go.
пойдем. Давай, папа.
Maybe a bit later.
Рассказать тебе
Should I tell you how it ends?
утром.
Let's leave that for tomorrow.
Утром?
I won't tell you tomorrow.
Придумала.
I know, let's play hide and seek. Oh no. Something scary will happen.
Нет, Оля.
No, Оля. Then draw me a dino.
Оля, блин.
Оля, please.
Нарисуй, нарисуй.
Draw it.
Да оставь ты меня в покое.
Leave me alone already. I blurted it out without thinking, and then I was immediately taken aback. I'd never screamed at my little sister like that. Olia stared at me in shock. Her lips started trembling, a precursor to tears. My chest was setting with disgust and embarrassment. What's happening to me? I hurried to prevent Ola from crying.
Ладно.
All right, you win. Let's go watch cartoons for a bit.
Только не ду-
I don't wanna. I came up to her, put my hand on her soft head.
Пойдем.
Let's go.
Питер Пен.
Let's go watch Peter Pan.
Ага.
Boo, you fall asleep again. I smiled and lifted her chin. Her eyes were wet and felt bottomless.
Не усну.
I promise I won't.
А потом я тебе
And I'll
сама
draw you a
трицератопса
full
нарисую.
Triceratops later. Hooray! Tripe sire pops. That's how I feel like I read sometimes.
Ну, почти.
Well, close enough. Olia rubbed her eyes with the sleeve of her pajamas, and a shiny smile returned to her face.
Давайте пока
I'll go
посидим
ask Mom
дальше.
for condensed milk and bread, and you rewind the tape.
Только утром
The bread is
свежий,
fresh,
как ты
just how you like it.
Неси.
Alright, just be careful not to spill the milk,
Опять ругаться.
or you'll be yelled at again.
Спорим, не
Wanna
разорви.
bet I won't spill it?
Кассета где-то
The
в
tape is
тумбочке.
somewhere
Поищи
in the
там.
nightstand. Look for it. Ola disappeared into the doorway, and I dragged my feet into the neighboring room. I think I forgot to look around in his room. I hope it's fine. Or did I? A piggy bank. Ola is saving money for a real puppy because Dad said that taking care of him will take a lot of money. Why is the sound like this? Ola's countless toys. An old teddy bear is the main attraction here. Ola doesn't sleep without it. And she digs her nose into its fur when she sleeps. The scary window where Ola sees that cursed owl every night, lurking in the dark. Ola keeps curtains open during the day, but as soon as the twilight comes, she shuts them tight so she wouldn't see the pair of hungry eyes outside. The old photon TV was gathering dust in the corner. All that was left was clicking the button on the front panel. The tube warmed up and familiar white noise started dancing on the black screen. I almost reached out to turn on the VCR, when the noise calmed down and a blurry image appeared for a moment. It was a dark taiga forest, just like the one outside my window. The picture split the screen in half. Something creepy resembling human speech was coming out of the speaker. Just a few moments later, the scenery was again overshadowed by noise. Oh, poor little guy. He's seeing stuff. Did it catch some rogue signal? Local TV station only really showed Soviet cartoons, and even that was pretty rare. And only just recently I used to always watch Robotech before school. It was so awesome. Maybe I should tinker with the antenna. What if I catch this channel again? On the other hand, Oля had asked me to find the tape. It wouldn't be nice to disappoint her. But in my sleepy state, I didn't have the strength to do all of it. I sifted through the shelves full of dolls and blue hippos from Kinder Surprise. I found the tape I needed thanks to its shabby spine. I got the black rectangle from its box. The tape inside it rustled while rewinding to the beginning. This rustle was lulling me to sleep. Drowsiness attacked me while I was squatting before the TV. Images whirled in my head, me and Ola flying above the forest, tumbling in the soft clouds. My little sister is laughing, but her smile becomes more and more forced with every passing second. I notice that the clouds underneath us part, burying the bristly pine tops. Swampy darkness slurped among the trees. The wings are no longer able to hold us, and Ola,
Ты не смотришь без меня?
you haven't started without me, have you? My sister brought the tray with unevenly cut bread and a whole can of condensed milk. Such a cool art, and I love this picture that they made her a reflection in the cup. I rubbed my eyes.
Нет.
No, come sit.
Мама с папой.
Mom and Dad are arguing again.
У них сейчас
They are going through rough times.
глупый.
Rough times are lame. On the screen, Wendy was hiding Peter Pan's shadow into the dresser. Ola was entertained by the cartoonish dog Nana.
Может, и нам родители
Maybe Mom and Dad will buy us a dog too?
Ага.
Yeah, right.
Мне бы лянь.
I'll have my own dog in the Neverland,
Собака.
and a cat, and a parrot. Ola smeared the slice of bread with a thick layer of condensed milk and handed it to me.
А у тебя
Have
всё
you
получится?
lost all of your baby teeth?
Конечно.
Obviously. Ola frowned deep in thought.
Питера Пэна зубы
Peter
ломают.
Pan has baby teeth.
Вдруг
What if
совсем
they won't let you go
пустят в его
to his land with adult teeth?
Мы что-нибудь
We'll
обязательно
think of something.
попросим.
We'll ask Dad to alter your age in the passport. Where did she get that from?
С чего это папа будет документы подделывать?
And why would Dad forge documents? Ola took a bite from the sandwich and started talking with her mouth full. He weave.
Мама говорила, что он так,
I heard Mom,
а я подслушала.
they... He did that before.
Смотри.
You'll
уши
grow
вырастут,
ears
как
as
у
big as
Дамбо.
Dumbo's. Ola got worried and touched her ear. I smiled to myself. My little sister was silent now. She just devoured bread, watching the adventures of Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and James Hook. As if she got sucked into the fairy tale Neverland. To be honest, I also imagined myself there, in a land where one never ages, where no one argues over little things, where no one listens to fights and the sound of broken plates at night. I felt like I was dreaming with my eyes still open. Then my sister's scream pulled me back to reality. Tosha, shut the curtains fast!
Зачем?
Why?
Кто же
No
тебя
one's
не
watching you. It's dark, and when it's dark, the owl comes. I'm scared. I got out of bed, fighting my drowsiness, and closed the curtains. I did my best not to look outside, toward the treetops, toward the taiga forest which seemingly drew closer and closer. Of course, it was just a visual effect from shadows of branches scraping the snow. Tosha, Mom thinks I made the owl up. And Dad too thinks I'm a liar since I'm small. But the owl exists. Honestly, it does. You do believe me, right? That it comes every night and... I swiftly grabbed Ola's hand and looked her in the eyes. I was trying to transfer at least some of my courage and determination. But did I really have those qualities? Yes, I believe you, right? Just don't nag our parents about it anymore. They are already dealing with a lot, so they'll just get mad at you. Come and tell me if anything happens. And don't look out the window. But it wants me to look. Doesn't matter. Act like it doesn't exist and never existed, like it's made up, just like Mom and Dad say. It'll get tired of waiting and fly away. We followed Peter Pan's adventures as if nothing had happened, as if the forest didn't kidnap kids, as if our parents weren't tearing each other apart bit by bit. Captain Hook was running away from a crocodile, and Captain Pan was headed to London on a gilded sailboat. By some miracle, I lasted longer than my little sister. Ola's eyelids had dropped. She started snorting lightly, resting her chin on the side of the bed. I stood up and left Ola's room. I was looking out the window, studying the field, when Mom peeked into my room. Enough playing around. It's your first day at school tomorrow. Go to bed, you should sleep properly. You don't want to be teased for being sleepy, right? Adults think everything is so simple. As if sound sleep would ensure my classmates would like me. I covered myself with a blanket up to my neck and listened to the house humming, to something invisible rustling in the corners. My inner voice had a question for me. Do I want to hear that mysterious flute again? Yes or no? Maybe it's just a part of growing up and I can't fully understand my own desires. The forest wailed behind the barrier that was my walls. Some ethereal entity wandered the fields. Branches shook as if calling for me. The wind howled on and on in the night. My thoughts were like annoying flies that entered my head before becoming weak and tangled. I didn't notice how I fell into slumber. It has come after all. The day I feared the most, the first day of a new school term.